Here is the Fox folks talking about Bernie Sanders' interview on ABC this week. You know, the way they've been spinning this too. There was a situation where he was asked, like, will you commit to having a female vice president of color? And he said, well, I'm obviously, more than open about that, but it's silly to talk about it right now, to commit to vice president. Nobody's going to do that.
Correct answer.
Which, of course. But people are trying to spin that in a way. It's sort of interesting to watch that. But here is the Fox and Friends crew bringing on the expert. Of course, I'm talking about Stuart Varney, to talk to them about what socialism is.
Meanwhile, we're capitalistic. Some folks who want to be president have talked about the wonders of socialism. Bernie Sanders was asked about that. Listen to this, Stuart.
Okay.
Trump seems to want to run against you, and certainly he wants to run, and Republicans want to run against socialism.
Okay.
Is it time for you to disavow that label?
The problem is that on a television interview, it's hard for me to describe in depth what we mean by that.
So why should you walk away from it?
If he can't describe it, can you?
Oh yes.
Please
how much time you got? Okay, number one.
Pause it. The funny part is how much time you got is exactly the point that Bernie was saying. We don't have much time. We're in this brief television interview. But here's Stuart Varney. He's going to give a shot anyways. Here it is.
Okay, number one.
45 seconds.
Socialism means high taxes for everyone. Socialism means the confiscation of wealth. Have you listened to Senator Elizabeth Warren? We're just going to take it off you. Not a tax. We're just going to take your wealth.
Pause it.
Socialism.
Actually, no. It is a tax. We're going to take your wealth. And so far, he's right.
Isn't that what taxes do?
Exactly. Socialism means a higher tax rate. That is true. And socialism does mean that if you are obscenely wealthy, you will have that money taxed away from you. Continue.
Wealth. Socialism means control of healthcare. Medicare for all, no private insurance.
You're making the point why Bernie didn't want to say these things on TV.
Pause it. That is not control of healthcare. That is control of the payments for healthcare. That's a difference. One's insurance. One is actually the delivery of healthcare. It is actually widening access and making it cheaper and easier to get healthcare.
TV.
Control of education. Control of the banks.
Control of education would be like something like public schools. And to the extent that Sanders would get more involved in this, a Sanders or a socialistic government would just simply mean that we're going to equalize the funding so that everyone has access to good schools and well-funded schools, and that schooling is not limited just to K through 12, but it may be pre-K with an option to go to university or college.
Businesses, government control over everything, collective control over our society, as opposed to what we've got, capitalism,
I've heard it being
individual liberty and freedom.
I've heard it described as stealing. You make the money and I'm going to steal it from you.
I would describe it exactly so.
How is our current tax regime not stealing if a tax regime that taxes 5, 10, 15% more of the wealth stealing? That would be the question I would ask if I was allowed in that building, which I am not.
Elizabeth Warren, Senator Warren, wants to take 2% of your wealth over a certain level. You've built it up. You've worked all your life.
Over a certain level. Does anybody know what that's like? Tens of millions of dollars.
I think it's $50 million.
Yes.
Oh, it wasn't $10.50.
Yeah, it was like if you've even got $20 in the bank account, I want to take that.
So over a certain level, I'm not going to say the number because I don't want to make anyone vomit out there to realize how much money they don't have. But
You built it up. She wants to take 2% per year right off you. Skim it off the top. It's not a tax. It's confiscation. That's socialism.
It's just amazing.
You see I'm getting worked up here?
Yeah, it's amazing to see an anchor try to push Bernie Sanders to disavow socialism. Why should he do that?
Yeah, why?
He's trying to say, I want you to win, Bernie. Just give up to socialism.
Yeah, exactly.
Please give it
I
up.
think you're right.
It's unbelievable.
Stop
Exactly
it,
how
Bernie.
I'd read
You're
that.
losing.
All right. Stuart's got to work
Let me
from
tell
9
you how
to
to
noon.
win, Bernie.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I would read that interview. Was
Yeah.
Carl was saying, Bernie, I'm a Bernie bro. I want everybody to have health care. You've made obviously the moral case for completing the New Deal and a fully revitalized American democracy, but I'm just really concerned about the socialism word.
Yeah, this but unironically.
And Bernie was just like, look, I don't think I have time to explain why I want rich people to personally suffer and that I resent and hate all forms of work. And that I admire both Stalin and Mao as historical figures. We don't really have time for that. So let me get back to why I think we need to break up agri-monopolies.
It's funny how they move from, instead of saying, a collective control, the opposite of is controlled by capitalists, but instead they say individual liberty, because they know if you said controlled by capitalists who just happen to own this shit, that would not be popular.
Yeah, like
Right. Liberty to have control over others.
How much freedom do most of the people watching this think they have at work, right? Like it's not a choice between the government controlling things and you controlling things. It's being presented here.
Yeah, I want the ability to bump up the price of EpiPens from $17 to like $500 because I'm Joe Manchin's daughter.
Freedom.
Like, I am a libertarian socialist, but I would rather have the state deal with these things than private companies. And I would rather have the workers control them than anything. But at least the state is hypothetically democratic.